This is an Italian plum. I'm Adair Kanter, and today I'm going to teach you how to make an Italian plum torte. It is a beautiful recipe and it's going to become one of your favorites. The first thing is to wash your plums, then you need to split them, and the beauty of an Italian plum is that pretty much they open up and the seed comes out. It is much easier than any of the cling seed fruits. The next step is making the batter. Right here are my ingredients for 2 tortes. I have 2 bowls, 2 sets of dry ingredients, my eggs, my butter, my vanilla, and my sugar. Now I'm going to show you how to assemble one batter. I'm starting with a very soft cube of butter, and I am going to pour in 1 cup of sugar. Blend well. Okay. Now that the sugar and the butter are blended, I'm going to add 1 egg at a time and blend until well blended. 1 teaspoon of vanilla, blend. Now I'm going to take my dry ingredients. I have 1 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of salt that I've blended. And I'm going to add that to my batter. All my ingredients are in. I'm scraping down the bowl, and I don't want to over blend, but I want to get all the flour incorporated into the wet ingredients. I am using a springform pan, cheesecake pan, but I have found these to be the most efficient, the ones with a trough around them. I have several. Here's another pan. Parchment paper is your friend. It will make everything so much easier. So my parchment has been cut to the shape. I put it down over the collar and then I crimp it off. I use spray that has flour in it. It works for me. You can use butter, but you have to be generous and you have to get the collar of your springform pan. Here's the batter we prepared. I'm just getting all this good batter into my pan, and then I have to spread it around with a nice little spatula, and I just push the dough, the batter, all the way to the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now we are ready to put our plums on top. The split plums now go into our pan, and you line in a concentric circle, getting as many plums as you can into the pan. Depending on how large or small your plums are, I found that 13 to 17, 18 plums will do a springform pan. I use fresh squeezed lemon juice, and then I use a generous tablespoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice sprinkled over the top of the plums. Then the topping, which is 2 tablespoons of sugar with 1 generous teaspoon of cinnamon. And you just sprinkle on top. This is the final step before it goes into the oven for 1 hour at 350. I have a very large oven. If you do not, you have to cook them one at a time. And I'm putting them in here for 1 hour at 350. Here we are after 1 hour beautiful torts. They take 1 hour. I don't test them, I just pull them out and stick them on the top of the stove. Now I'm going to transfer these over to cooling racks. They need to cool down if you're going to store them for a month, for 5 months, up to a year. And I'm going to show you how to store them and wrap them, because there is something to it. But right now I have to slide this off onto my cooling rack. It takes a little bit of finesse, but usually it comes off. And then I let this cool. But you could eat this right now with some ice cream, with some whipped cream, or just plain. It is amazing. Now, right out of the oven, the plums will be very hot, so you have to be a little bit careful. But this is a delicious dessert. It's a delicious breakfast food, and it stores up to a year in the freezer when you have wrapped it appropriately. It's the end of my day, and I am ready to wrap the plum torts. Here's the tort. I have to cut off all this parchment because obviously I don't want to wrap my tort with all this excess. And I have found it works pretty slick to get it over the edge, and nice set of scissors, and all you do is go around the perimeter. Voila. Pretty nifty. And I will show you in the next step what we're going to do with the wrapping of the plastic wrap and then aluminum foil, and the last part will be the gallon-sized baggie. We're going to start with the plastic wrap. And I'm pretty generous with my wraps. You will have to find your own method when you start making these. The toughest part is getting this from your cooling rack over to the middle. That was pretty easy. That's because it's cold and it's much harder. I'm going to take one end and bring it over. I kind of seal around the edges, and then I bring the other end over. It overlaps quite a bit. I make sure I bring up my sides so that all of the tort is covered in plastic wrap. So that's the first, and I'm going to leave it right here while I get the aluminum foil. Again, you're going to have to figure out how much you use. I kind of use my island as a gauge, and I always like the shiny side out. And then I take the two sides that were not as well sealed as this, and I put that in the center of my aluminum foil so it holds this more opened end when I seal it up with aluminum foil. Again, you're going to have to find your own method, but you just want to make a nice tight wrap of aluminum foil. The last step is the gallon Ziploc bag. Actually, don't use Ziplocs, because if it has that little bar that goes across, it takes up space on one end or the other, and you won't get your tort in without tearing this edge. This is how I tell people. I have a date, of course, what I put in it, a plum tort. I say it's from my kitchen. I want some credit. And then I give them instructions. Thaw, because it's frozen when I hand it to them. Unwrap, because it's got aluminum foil and saran wrap around it. And then you reheat. Reheat at 350 for 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, now we're going to put this in here, and again, here's the bottom of my tort. I want to turn it upside down or right side up. Here are my two thicker ends, and I want a thick end to go in first, and I just gently ease this in. Okay, the last step is to get all the air out. You can do it any way you want. I use a straw and suck the air out. I don't know, if you have a seal and wrap, you can use that too. But this is how I do it. Here is my plum torte ready to go in the freezer with the instructions on it, and it will last up to a year in the freezer. I've actually had them last quite a bit longer and they taste great. There you have it. Now you can make your own beautiful, delicious plum torte, and you can share it with your friends or eat it all by yourself. Anyway, happy eating.